the big question for me was, all right, where are they going to begin? And I kind of figured they would do something with Abby. I thought maybe they would start off where season 1 ended, where she's at. They opened in a graveyard. We don't know who she is at first right away. They take a little sec to introduce the characters. Abby's kind of standing off, looking towards the future in a way, as they call it, future days, and they're looking at all the crosses and graveyards. There's a lot of graveyards there. I thought maybe they would take a little bit longer to reveal exactly who these people are for anyone brand new to the series or whatnot. So they're going after Joel. Then they weren't even 100% clear on that. Again, because I was wondering, all right, how much are they going to reveal right away in the very first 5 minutes of the show? So they do reveal right away that this person is named Abby and she's after Joel, even though they don't explicitly say why she is. And I'm wondering if they are going to say that or not, because they didn't specifically say why she's after Joel, other than the fact that she wants to kill him. But they never really get into that or why. I know why, or they're keeping it secret specifically for the show, because they're not straight up outright saying who she is or why she wants to kill Abby yet. Who she is or why she wants to kill Joel. I know why, but I actually want to try to keep this spoiler-free for any future events. This is spoilery for the episode itself, obviously, but for any future events that are going to result in what's happening right here. But yeah, cool to see they decided to open on Abby and a little backstory on what she is, and then they go 5 years later. So I'm wondering, that part there I am lost on because, yeah, this part here I'm like, okay. So they decided, and then it took them 5 years. I don't know. That part I'm kind of lost on. I'm like, do they really take them 5 years to get this far? Then we open on Jackson and Ellie, and she's getting her ass kicked by a guy. And I knew immediately what was going on, but obviously they were setting it up to make it look like she was in a fight with somebody. But turns out she's just in a fight, but with a friend who just happened to punch her in the face. So they fight, and it gets pretty rough. But we get to see that Ellie is a lot more accomplished now with hand-to-hand combat and guns. She's very trigger happy. She loves the guns, but she's also capable, as you can see, being trained by Jesse. But then we have a big moment that's new from the games is the relationship between Joel and Dina. Because even when she first comes in, they don't reveal who it is yet. And we thought maybe it's Ellie, but it's Dina, and they have definitely further developed their relationships beyond the games. In the games, they were kind of basically just like acquaintances. They kind of knew each other, but here they have a full-on developed relationship, and I get why they did that. To mirror how shitty his relationship is with Ellie right now. So now he kind of has his surrogate daughter's best friend. So now he perhaps has two surrogate. But then, of course, Dina used to date Jesse, which is in the games, Jesse was actually Ellie's best friend. And then her and Dina just became friends through that. But here, they're basically having that Dina is her best friend, and her and Joel are also really close. And Jesse is the guy that she dated, but they're all have their own little group of friends. This is our first time ever seeing Isabela as Dina, and Isabela was always the big question for me because I've never been impressed by her as an actress. And yeah, she's there and she's kind of like has a lot of attitude. I'm still on the fence because I just don't think she's that good of an actress compared to everybody else on the show. So I still think she has to prove herself. I mean, she's cute, but beyond that, we need more than that. We get more chances just to see how much more capable Ellie is with her rifle, and her and Tommy are out shooting and practice shooting, which is cool to see because Ellie and Tommy never had the biggest relationship either in a lot of ways. Earlier in game 2, they didn't have that much a relationship, but they're definitely not padding out, they're definitely strengthening all the relationships that necessarily need to be for the show. Because, yeah, you always got to change things for shows based on whatever the IP is, whether it's a game or a book or whatever, or an anime. So all the additions they made to these relationships, finally we get to see Catherine O'Hara, who I've been looking forward to the most. I love Catherine O'Hara. I'm from Canada, so anyone who's from Canada just loves Catherine O'Hara. She is one of our national treasures. And so then we see Joel we see Joel doing his therapy thing. Not really a lot of breakthrough, but there is that kind of big reveal from Gail that Joel actually killed her husband, Eugene. So that's kind of insane. And we don't meet Eugene yet, but Eugene is the character played by Joey Pantaleone. So we are going to see a flashback of how that happened because we see his face in the trailer. So we know that we see him while he's alive. So that was a big reveal there that Gail, who is a character that's new from the games, so that means Eugene is new, or Eugene could be a character from the games, but they decided. I don't remember the games enough to remember every single character, but I don't remember anyone named Eugene. You never know. Eugene could have been a side character they decided to develop and be like, all right, this is actually this new person's husband. What's going on with that? We're not too sure, but we do get to see that she's kind of a half-ass therapist. She's drinking whiskey during the session, and Joel gives her some shitty ass weed, and she makes a funny joke about it being high school. But curious to see how the only way they can get weed this time would be to grow it. So I wonder how they're able to grow it. They did mention that Eugene used to grow the best weed. Whoever grows it now or who they get it from, who knows? Therapy session doesn't go the best. Again, we still have the fact that Joel hasn't made the big breakthrough on admitting out loud that he lied to Ellie at the end of season 1. Hopefully you've seen season 1. If not, well, that's on you at this point. But we know that Joel lies to her at the end of season 1 about how she wasn't actually the cure for the outbreak. She's immune, and they thought that she would become. She's immune, and they were operating on her to get an antidote. We all know what Joel did. He kind of put a stop to that and quote unquote saved her, as he says. The very end of the scene, he cries and he says that he saved her, which is him lying to himself still. Because, of course, he could have saved humanity and let her be sacrificed for the greater good. But instead, he doomed humanity for his own selfish needs. Sure, we get those needs, but they are ultimately selfish. But learning that Joel actually killed Gail's husband is kind of insane. So she's here trying to offer him therapy with this thing kind of weighing on her mind, which is kind of a pretty huge. We'll see how that plays out later on for both of them. Considering we see Joey Pantalones in the trailers, we know that he's going to be in there somewhere. And I can definitely see a hint that there's going to actually show him how and why he killed her. He killed him. Maybe we learn a reason that makes sense. Or we could just see the fact that Joel is kind of a crazy person who just kills too much. Or we're just going to see another thing that Joel did that I shouldn't have done. And there's a side of him that's not 100% gone yet. There's that killer side of him that kind of came out, after his daughter died, and how he spent 20 years basically just, Another thing that I was surprised to see for episode 1 is how much they kind of use a lot of parts from the game 2, Ellie and Dina going on recon missions together and then being pains in the ass. Although in the game, it was just 2 of them. They would go off by themselves and do it. But here they have 3 other people that kind of just, one of them's quote unquote the leader, but annoyingly, Dina and Ellie don't listen. And they go on ahead and they get involved in a little moment with a clicker. And then we further see the relationship between Ellie and Dina is more advanced than I say from the games. In the games, they were still kind of new to each other and they were getting to like each other, but they weren't necessarily the closest friends beforehand. But now they're straight up going for, they're already really good friends. So the relationship grows from there. But we see them in this grocery store, not listening to their superiors again, and chasing after a clicker that necessarily they didn't really need to. They could have just walked off and let it be whatever inside of its place. But it's kind of hard to take Dina, Isabela, seriously as someone who's like any good at like reconning or being a ninja or being secret. But yeah, they put their guns away and go in and they're going to take out the clicker with a knife. That doesn't work out. And we find Ellie a floor down fighting against a new clicker. Once they take out the regular clicker with a knife, then she ends up facing another clicker on the basement and she falls to the floor. And then there's this clicker who's much more advanced. We have this clicker that's a lot smarter, and it's able to kind of stalk her and hunt her, set traps, and actually have a way, actually like figuring out how to attack someone instead of your average, which just kind of comes at you like even in the moment where she's fighting it. she's yelling at it to come at her because that's normally what they do, but it doesn't, and then attacks her from the side. So there's this new advanced clicker that's smarter than the other ones. And I don't remember that being in the game. In game two, I do not recall them having that much of an advanced type of clicker. Other than that, are bigger and like scarier. But I can see that they're going to be changing some things just to make the clickers more interesting and not just be more of the same again of just a bunch of mindless creatures that run at you. But getting to see how much farther Ellie has advanced in the past 5 years in terms of her weaponry training, she's much better with the weapons, and she's using shotguns and handguns and knives, and she's skilled with all of that. And these are all natural progressions. She's been 5 years living in Jackson, but her and Joel's relationship has gotten a lot rockier. Not for the reasons that I know they will eventually. I am wondering at this point if they've already had that discussion and they're gonna go and we're gonna see a flashback of the moment where Joel finally admits to her that she could have been the antidote to the outbreak. Because that's a moment you know it's going to happen, whether that's a spoiler to you or not. But if you watch last season, you know that he lied to her, and eventually that lie is going to come out. But I'm wondering if at this point it already has during these past 5 years, or she's been, or this whole time she's still been kind of suspicious as always, and always wondered if he's actually telling the truth, because you can see on her face that at the end of the season she wasn't sure if she believed him. But at this point, we don't know if they've actually found out or talked about it. But they're definitely not getting along, mainly because of the Joel is getting on her nerves with how protective he's being, and Ellie's being, a 19-year-old girl. But it's New Year's Eve here in Jackson, and they have that little event that opened Game 2 and was in the first Game 2 trailer ever. That moment where they're doing the New Year's Eve event and all these lovely lights are strung up and you can see Ellie from behind. But Joel and Ellie's relationship is quite strained, and she can barely stand to even be around him. Even when he visits her in the garage where she lives now, it's just kind of awkward. And then at the party, Dina and Ellie have a moment, though Dina's a little drunk, but they actually kiss in front of everyone. But then it gets a little bit too much, which I thought, all right, we don't need to go that far with it. But they do get a little bit extra freaky, and then some mean guy, and then some guy who's standing by watching saying, this is a family event. So that nice little moment between Ellie and Dina is ruined when Joel comes along and pushes that guy because he called her a bunch of dykes. I don't know why that's that big of a thing. You need to push someone around, but Joel ruins everything again with his overprotectiveness. Dina, like she was pretty drunk, and then they have a little kissing moment at the party, and they get a little bit too frisky. I thought that was a bit of an extreme, but some guy complains, calls her a dyke. Joel pushes him. That doesn't go over too well. But something that they've added to the show is this pipeline that leads into Jackson, but where does it lead from? We're not sure yet, but we are seeing that something is growing within the roots. And if you remember from season 1, they added this, I don't know what you call it, ability that wasn't in the games, where basically through all the roots in the ground, all the clickers can communicate with each other in a hive mind. So I take these roots growing through this pipeline as a connection back to the hordes of clickers that will lead them into Jackson. Then the episode ends with we're seeing Abby and her 4 friends who are just reaching the outskirts of Jackson, but I'm wondering, okay, has it really taken them 5 years to find them? That part I'm confused about. But again, I remember at the end of season 1, after Joel took Ellie from that lab, how far they actually drove. We were never too sure how far away from Jackson they were. But they ended up driving all the way back to Jackson. And I wonder if they still have access to vehicles at all anymore, or they've just completely run out of gas. But here we are, and we're at the end of season We're at the end of the first episode of season 2 of The Last of Us, and I like where it's going, and I've liked the additions they made. They essentially bookended the episode with Abby, showing her at the opening, at the end, we get to meet her immediately, which I was interested to see how they were going to handle that. Because I wasn't even sure if they were going to show her at all in this episode. I thought they were going to actually maybe wait a whole episode for us to meet her and just see who she is. But we meet her immediately. But they still don't explicitly say out loud why Abby wants to kill. If you've played the games, then you know exactly why. But even in these videos of reviews, I don't want to spoil. I know why they're after him, obviously. And if you've watched the show, if you watched last season, that you may be able to guess as to why she's after him. But then the episode ends, yes, with them on the outskirts-ish of Jackson. But did it really take them 5 years to find them? Because that seems kind of sad. If it really took them 5 years to get from wherever they were to Jackson, I forget where they actually were. But again, I have to remember by the games what actually happened. Abby splits off somehow, perhaps. That will all be revealed in episode 2. I'm trying to remember of things that happened at the end in game 2 that will lead to Abby meeting up with Joel and or Ellie. And if you watched, and if you paid attention to the trailers, you saw a shot of where Abby is gotten pinned under a fence by a horde of clickers, and Joel and Tommy actually help her out. But that's as far as I'm going to go with that in terms of revealing anything, because all the 5 people of you that are going to watch this will be all upset because I spoil things for you. So here we are at the end of episode 1 of season 2, and they've set up a bunch. So they've already been setting up some story threads with the story of Abby and her journey, and we're still not clear on why she wants to kill Joel. And now we have Joel and Ellie, whose relationship is very strained. Then Ellie and Dina, whose relationship is pretty strong and growing, but also the addition of Joel and Dina's relationship. So there's a lot of relationships going on in these shows. And that is also always a big part of these shows in general, are the relationships between each other, and Joel and Ellie being the most important one and the most fractured one right now at the moment. And I can't see that getting any better anytime soon. But I really wanted to keep these reviews as short as possible. I didn't want to go longer than 10, 15 minutes. So they may not be the most well thought out reviews, but I am doing them as soon as I watch the episode. As soon as I'm done watching the episode, I made this review. So everything is fresh in my mind. And I like the way they ended it with showing Abby, and she is close to Jackson. But from there on, what they will do with that, if she will be going directly there or there will be some diversions along the way, I can see that happening. Well, we have a whole other week to find out what's going to happen. That was episode 1. Future days, episode 2 is coming in another week. So I will see all you guys in a week for my review of episode 2. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and to comment below. But don't forget to keep gaming.